So today's coffee chat, we're just going to get right to it and talk about why school did not prepare you for the real world. Why the pipeline from secondary education, which is high school, didn't prepare you for university or didn't prepare you for college or didn't prepare you for the workforce. And this was really inspired by the symposium that I was presenting at today. If you can see, this is my research poster. I don't know how I'm going to take that home, but I was at a roundtable talk and there was a researcher and education expert there who had his session on college and career readiness, and he had all the data and statistics on like what is going on, like where is the disconnect. And his presentation like really inspired me and inspired this video, and now I have a clearer picture on how to advocate for others as it relates to college and career readiness. It's important for me to state my positioning in this conversation. Like, yes, I am an education researcher. Yes, I also have helped hundreds of students get into university, trade school, military, from Ivy League all the way to community college. Like, that academia is my playground. In addition to that, I used to be a recruiter, a technical recruiter for one of the biggest companies in the world. In addition to that, I was raised on military bases my entire life. So I have in-depth knowledge about the college pathway. I have in-depth knowledge about the military pathway because I spent the first 18 years of my life living that experience and like understanding it from a child's perspective and seeing how it works. And I have a in-depth perspective in how corporate America runs and operates. And when you are seeking guidance or counsel when it comes to college and career pathways, a lot of times you're going to your guidance counselor or you're going to your professor. And they can be a part of like your advisory board or your mentorship board in which you are seeking guidance from. But what people fail to realize is they are experts within their line of study. And so I think about, and I'll pull from my lived experience. When I was studying agriculture, my first degree is in agriculture, I have some professors who are experts in urban planning. What the hell would they know about marketing in the fashion industry? Do you see? Like, yes, he is an expert in urban planning and agriculture, but if I have a passion about marketing in the fashion industry, he is not the person that I would go to. And I think a lot of times people are operating, okay, well, I have my professors. Yes, your professors are experts within their line of study. And if they know someone or they know a guy that knows a guy, that's great. But we cannot denote their scholarship and their expertise within their field. And the more that I get deeper in my expertise, I realize I know nothing. Like, I know a lot, but a lot compared to the vastness of the universe is still nothing. And so this constant place of evolution, intellectually, this constant evolution of like digging deeper. Also, because I used to work in tech, because I used to work in talent acquisition and recruitment, I understand how the hiring cycles work. I understand how cross-functioning teams work. I understand the curriculum in which hiring managers, talent partners, talent sourcers are operating off of. So I can give you that in-depth knowledge. Also, because the tech company that I worked at was one of, or maybe the biggest creative company in the world. So I have insight in how the marketing works and what the marketing hiring looks like. Or I have insight on, like, how do you hire a designer? What does your portfolio need to look like? I can speak on that in depth. I am the exception to the rule, and I say that a lot, and I think people need to be honest about when they are the exception to the rule on giving advice or like giving guidance on if someone doesn't have my background experience, they may not know how to navigate these realms. In addition to that, I've helped hundreds of students get into the colleges of their dream, or I have helped hundreds of students that maybe they did not want to go to university. I have some students, one of my students is now a certified welder. I understand what that process looks like. I understand trade school. I understand vocation. I understand the skill sets that you need, the technical skill sets. And that goes to my next point. People don't understand tech stack. Every career has a tech stack that you need. And what I mean by tech stack is the technical skills that you need to operate and excel in that career. For example, if I was hiring a front-end engineer, they're going to need to know JavaScript. They're going to need to know TypeScript. They're going to need to know HTML. They're going to have to show different portfolios in which they worked on. If I'm hiring a back-end engineer, they're going to need to know Java or Python depending on the industry that they're going into, or depending on the company that they're going into, because a lot of companies either operate off of their internal tech stack or they have preferences in which all of their systems operate off of. Those are conversations that need to be happening. But if the people that are advising, you don't know that, like genuinely, nobody has ever exposed them to that. In the work that I do in college and career and helping students get in there, that is not in the lesson plan because the people that wrote the lesson plan do not know. That is the part that I need people to understand. People simply don't know. They don't. And if I did not have the lived experience of a recruiter, I would not know either. But that was my job at one point. And we also can't expect professors and teachers and advisors to know everything. And so I'm saying that to say is you have to, one, find the appropriate mentors and advisors. And you're going to need a couple. I think a lot of times we try to only have one advisor or only one mentor, and hopefully they have all the answers to the world. No, you need to create an advisory board for yourself. And so not only looking up as it relates to networking and building connections, but also you need to look to the people on the left and right of you. If you don't have any like college and career counselors or guidance like that, I will plug and say I do have consulting where I help people in the both college and career space, but I'm going to do more of a webinar series where I go into depth on each industry, each certification that you need, all of that. I'm going to start that series. I'll probably start it sometime this upcoming week. But these are important conversations that you need to have. And you also need to know that as you are seeking mentorships, what do you need? Do you need someone on the education side, whether the career paths that I need to go, or not career paths, whether the academic paths that I need to go? What are the degrees I should consider? What internships and fellowships and residencies exist within this space? You also need an advisor. I don't know why I'm so tongue-tied. On the career space. What certifications do I need? What does career upward mobility look like? What are the tech stacks that I need? What are the companies I should be looking at? What are the industries I should consider? And then you need someone more on like the lived experience in the life side. Because I could give you the rundown. This is step 1 that you need to take to step 2 to get to step 3, but then life happens. You need to have someone that is going to be real about the pivot. What it takes to pivot. Some of the questions you should be asking, some of the guidance that you should be seeking, some of the prayers you should be saying, even if the prayer is help. help me. I need guidance. I need mercy. And you can't operate these things independently without seeing the interconnection, because you are the interconnection. Your dreams, your experience, you want to tie everything together, and maybe you don't. But you need to know that, and you need to be honest about that. And I find this place of us thinking that teachers and educators should know everything. You should have taught me how to do X, Y, and Z. But if they didn't know, they don't know. They only know the subject in which they are hired for. And if they know more than that, then that is a plus. But most people only know the subject in which they are hired for. Most people know the role in which they are hired for. They don't know the outside and the in-depth. If I am a project manager, what the hell do I know about revenue operation sales? I didn't go to school for that. I may know someone loosely, but also people have to understand that a lot of these organizations and a lot of these industries do not talk in-depthly on that matter. They don't talk in-depthly on that. And like, these are the honest conversations that we need to have. And the last point that I'm going to make before I go is the conversation of like, I felt like my family led me astray. My mother, my grandmother, my father, my brother, uncle, cousin told me, go get the degree, then you get the job. And I did exactly what they said. And I'm not seeing the fruit of my labor. I want to provide a different insight to that conversation, because going to school, getting a degree did work at one point. And we need to stop denoting that fact. And if we're going to pull in that conversation and add critique, to that conversation, then you have to understand the historical and the systemic history of why people push to go get an education. Because at one point, it was once illegal for people to read and write. And the only way that you got financial equity or even to make a damn penny, you needed to be able to read and write. And that evolved into the institution of higher education, where, okay, if you want this degree, you need a bachelor's, you need to go to school. And we cannot ignore the systemic barriers that were once in place for those, because they have evolved to where we are today. Also, you cannot denote the facts of automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and how that is changing the workforce today. And going back to, people simply don't know how to give you advice on college and career, especially if they are not in this space, especially if they don't have in-depth knowledge, because they don't know. Because what worked for them 10 years ago does not work for you today. And that is a sobering reality, but I need you to understand that reality. And you can be as frustrated as you want, because it is upsetting. It is upsetting. I'm going to hold the space, and I'm going to name and say that. And this is not like, okay, I'm over it. You're going to feel the waves come back of like frustration, and I'm working so hard, and I'm not seeing the fruits of my labor, and I'm doing everything that people say, and I'm not seeing anything. That's why I say you need that person, that life advisory person, that's going to tell you the real about the pivot and about the change, because it's not linear. And this is what people mean when they say life and career. Most definitely, career is not a linear path. Because you can be a vice president today, laid off tomorrow. And now you got to start over. And I'm not saying that you got to fall in love with the start over. I'm not saying that you have to fake the funk with liking the start over. But you're going to have to start over. In most points in life, you're going to have to start over. Everything has a time limit. Even you and I. And so what you do between your birth, the day that you take your first breath, to the day that you take your last breath, that's not going to be a linear path. And that is something you're just going to have to understand. And every intersectionality is in your life, whether it's work, whether it's love, whether it's career, whether it's money, whether it's travel, whether it's friendship, whether it's the foods that you like, whether today you are single running the streets, tomorrow you're a parent. Life is not linear. And you have to understand, because your life is not linear, everyone else's life is not linear. And that is where the conversation of grace and mercy and discernment come into play.